All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Phantom Frequency Podcast. I am your host, Steve, and today I'm actually joined by my co-host and friend here.
Hi, how you doing? Glad to be here.
Today's episode is it's an interesting one. So we're gonna be covering his nickname is the Metal Man of Falkville, which is a pretty wild story. So basically, on October 17th, 1973, in Falkville, Alabama, late at night, police chief named Jeff Greenhaw receives a strange call about some. The call was actually initially said to be a craft that crashed in a field, and I'm sure he wasn't expecting anything more than a routine investigation, but when his headlights hit the road ahead, Greenhaw claims he sees something impossible.
Yeah, so interestingly, it takes place in a very small town, rural place in Alabama called Falkville, not Foxville. I've mistaken that a few times. Yeah, so interestingly enough, around the time of this happening in the 70s, the population of the town was only like 946 people, and as of
Which is
2020, the
insane.
population. Oh yeah,
I think
that's wild.
946 people live on my street.
Yeah, yeah, me too. And it's crazy, and it hasn't increased much since then. I mean, as of 2020, it's 1,197 people. On this is all according to Wikipedia, of course. And Wikipedia actually has the Falkville's racial composition, and I noticed that there's only one Asian person living in Falkville as of 2020, which is just something I thought
As of 2020, so the entire history of Falkville, a single Asian man has ever taken residence there.
I mean, maybe
I want to know
past,
this man.
I know. I want to meet this one Asian guy. I feel bad. He's so lonely, and this the distribution of between, like, it's one Asian guy, and then there's 1,096 white people. So it's just very
white town.
Yes,
I mean,
it's very
Alabama,
white town,
right?
But yeah,
it's Alabama.
Yeah, it's described as a very it's obviously in the South. The climate is.
It's pretty northern
in
the state of Alabama, though, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
I think I've seen it on a map, and it's like center of Alabama, straight north.
Yeah,
like right near the tippity top of it.
It's not that big either. It's like again, a lot of this comes from Wikipedia and Google and stuff. The information, they say it's about 300 square miles, and that is about the size of New York City, not including the water.
Yeah.
So
it sounds big, but you got to think that, would you say 300 square miles?
Yeah, about 300 square miles.
There's only, we're talking less than 1,000 people scattered in
such a big area.
In an area of that size, and you kind of get.
But again, it is small at the same time. It's just the population relative to the size of the place is not very. So yeah, it's been small for most of its life, and it's small town in Alabama kind of deal. The climate's pretty hot, humid summers, mild, cool winters, which is sounds pretty nice to me. Our winters over here are pretty rough sometimes.
True. And this event happened in October, so it was probably decent weather at that point.
Yeah. So maybe not too bad, And the vibe I'm getting is kind of like a, again, it's a small town. Everybody probably knows each other.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least everybody knows all of the families there. I mean, because the population is so small. So, it's got like that southern charm, quiet, safe.
Yeah, they definitely knew everyone probably by name. I mean, they even had a their own town council and all that.
And they also have another thing. They have access to the Interstate 65. So I'd imagine that they'd have people in and out of the town.
Yeah,
so
probably lots of people passing through, but no one really staying.
Yeah,
it's probably a town that just sees people, going from one place to another, never to Falkville.
Just passing through kind of deal, I ain't seen you here before. I'm just passing through. Yeah, and there's a few people of, of interest there, but there's one guy who stood out to me when I was looking at the Wikipedia page. His name is Tom Drake, and he was he was an attorney, a politician, and a former professional wrestler. So yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting. He went by the nickname Coleman Comet. So yeah, I mean,
That's
that's
that is
about
pretty that's pretty amazing. When was he there?
he was there 1930, died around 2017, around the age of 86-ish.
Wow.
So yeah, and he was in office from 83 to 87.
That didn't
So
last long.
yeah, no, yeah, I don't blame him, but yeah, there's a couple other names. They have a noted businessman, Roy Drinkard, and a poet, Rodney Jones.
Nice,
But
nice.
but yeah, that's about it for Falksville, Alabama.
Falkville.
Falkville, yeah, there we go again, saying it wrong. I can't get it right, dude. I'm like Foxville.
That's just what.
I
That's,
can't
what
do
do they
it.
call? That's like a
It's
brain block
Falk.
on that word.
Falksville.
Nope.
Falk.
Falkville.
Falkville.
That S just wants
Yeah.
to happen.
Yeah, don't listen to me. I can't. I just cannot say
Is it
it
an
right.
old town?
Yeah, actually, it let's see. It started in 1880, about when the population was 105 people.
Wow.
So
It
yeah.
was founded in 1880.
yeah, around then. It says the earliest beginnings are around 1850, but 1880 is about the time when people really started showing
Yeah.
up. And there's really not much history there on the for the Wikipedia page. I mean, they've had couple tornadoes in the 1950s.
Yeah, I was reading about that. There's actually a good amount of tornado activity in such a small little middle of nowhere town.
Yeah, which is pretty surprising.
Yeah.
It would probably suck really bad though to have a devastating tornado like rip through a small
True.
town.
True.
So hopefully it wasn't that big of a deal, but I mean clearly
Yeah.
they're doing okay right now.
I mean,
So
there wasn't that many people to hit. So hopefully.
yeah. Oh wow. Actually, reading about it, it says that there was it tore directly through the town, killing 5 people and injuring 20. Wow. Yeah. So that's
All right. Well,
okay. I take that back. That's pretty rough. Yeah.
that
And then the next one that
somehow
happened.
managed to do as much damage as possible.
Yep. It hit only the residential areas. Well, thank you for that, nature.
Where you don't want it to hit.
Yeah. Mother Nature is like, hey, you know what? We're just gonna wipe out the smallest little dots on this freaking 300 square mile freaking poor place, dude. Yeah, that's not right.
300
So-
square miles. So if I'm doing that math right, there's only about 3 people within any square mile of the town, and it managed to hit what, 25 people.
Yeah, that's that's pretty insane. And then it said the next one 2 years later they had another tornado hit the southern part of the town, and that storm killed 2 people and injured 90.
My God.
So
That's
my
like
God,
10% of the population.
that is literally 10% of their population is just getting hammered by these freaking tornadoes.
No wonder no one lives there.
Yeah, I don't know, man. That's they probably still talk about that to this day to their kids, and they're like, the kids are like so sick of hearing it because the grandparents won't shut up about this crazy tornado.
Back in my day,
we had this crazy tornado, took us all out. 57, I think. Yeah, that was the second one. The first one was 55, and the second one was 57. Yeah. Yeah, I know that. Yeah, because the population was so small, it just wiped out 2 people, and there goes one whole family. That's pretty rough. So they've had it. I mean, aside from that, it's been a very quiet town. It's very peaceful, small, and nothing much going on.
Well, if we fast forward like 20 years after the tornadoes ravaged this poor town,
Yeah.
we get to the timeline of what we're here to talk about, and that takes us to October 17th of 1973. But this story is about a guy named Jeffrey Greenhaw. So at the time, in 1973. He was 23 years old, and he did graduate from the Alabama State Police Academy, but he was actually elected in his hometown as the chief of police by the town council of Falkville, which I thought was an interesting fact because I feel like that plays into us understanding the kind of person that Jeffrey Greenhaw was. Because to be only 23 years old and to be elected as the chief of police by the town council, I mean,
Yeah.
we're talking, it's got to be a real standout kid. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Even though it's a small town, like that's still they chose you. They trusted you to be the chief of police. It's very especially at such a young age.
Yeah. Like,
You know,
chief of police at
23 years old.
23 is I've never heard of that. So
Yeah, me neither.
must have been a real good kid. But yeah, so the town's police station was actually a branch of the Morgan County Sheriff's Office that was run by a man named John C. McBride. He was the sheriff of Morgan County. But before this incident happened, Jeffrey Greenhaw wasn't really into the whole UFO thing. He said that, yeah, he said that basically his knowledge of the subject before October 17th was nothing more than the average person. He was quoted as saying that he had heard of previous reports of UFOs from the state and county patrol units. I had been laughing at the matter until this one night. Since I had heard of UFOs, I had been carrying a Polaroid camera with me. I didn't know what I run upon or see that would be of interest to me in my work. So,
Okay.
yeah, so he made that,
That explains. Okay,
yeah,
yeah.
he made that remark in his letter, April 17th, 1974. He made that to ICUFON, which is the UFO Galactic Spacecraft Research and Analytic Network. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So he stated
That's a
that in his
mouthful.
letter to them. But that tells why he had the camera to begin with.
Yeah. For
Because,
anybody who knows a little bit about the story, it there are photos
yes,
that
yeah,
were
yeah.
taken.
He took 5 photographs, 4 of which you can actually see the being the Metal Man. But that's why he had a camera in his patrol car, because digging into the subject, it actually becomes pretty clear that there was a lot of this activity in this specific area, not necessarily just this town, but in the southern part of the United States in the early 70s. There were massive influx in sightings, UFO, all sorts of crazy stories from people. And
Yeah.
yeah, so that's how he had the camera on him. A lot of this information, the incident was actually published in the official UFO magazine in August of 1975, and
Oh wow.
a lot of the articles that we're reading were written by an experienced UFO investigator. His name was Coleman von Kavitsky. So this guy was actually the director of the ICUFON, which again is the UFO Galactic Spacecraft Research and Analytic Network. But that's why he was in contact with them.
So he was never really a part of their group before.
No,
So,
no, nope. And his affiliation with them began about 7 months after his experience.
hmm, okay.
And that ICUFON, they described him as intelligent, sober-minded. He didn't give off that crackpot UFO crazy man. You know what I mean? He
Yeah.
wasn't he wasn't looking to write books about it. He wasn't looking for fame, attention. This was a real simple guy who had a not so simple encounter. But speaking of that, let's jump into what actually happened to him.
The
The
incident.
incident. Dun dun
Yes.
dun. So it all happened, like I said, on October 17th, 1973. It happened around 10 p.m. He actually got a call from a frantic woman who actually called him at home. So he was actually off duty when this happened, and yeah,
I
and he
didn't know
was
that.
apparently just in bed with his wife,
Yeah,
just
just
probably hoping for a nice quiet night.
chill night.
Last thing
Yeah.
he expected to get a phone call about was a UFO crashing in a field, but nonetheless, she called him apparently in a craze, frantic, freaking out, saying that a spacecraft had either crashed or landed west of the town on a pasture owned by a man named Bobby Summerford, and that was in the really rural part of Falkville. So
Oh, okay.
Jeff got up. He was probably pissed. He's like, this,
Yeah.
fucking crazy lady waking me up in the
Yeah, I
middle of the
imagine.
night. Some UFO. So he gets up, gets his uniform on, make sure he's got his camera, and he, was probably thinking, wow, it's a good thing I put that camera in the car. Maybe I finally get to use it.
Yeah. I'm assuming he definitely made sure he had it on him this
Yeah,
time,
for sure. He'd probably check that over
knowing
his
what the
gun that
call
night.
was. Yeah. Because I definitely would. If I got a call and somebody was, whether or not I believed it, and somebody was like, "Hey, like, there's a UFO that landed in a field. Please come check it out." I'd be like, "All right, camera first, gun later. Let's go check it out." I imagine he's thinking, if I see something, maybe I should get a picture of it so people don't think I'm crazy too.
That
But I
1%
I
chance she
imagine,
wasn't crazy.
yeah, I imagine he didn't expect to see anything when getting there. Maybe just, her thinking that she saw something, or I don't know. I just imagine he was not ready to see what he actually did
Yeah,
see.
no, for sure. He was not he did not for a second think she was being truthful. Nonetheless, he had to go check it out. He did say he thought, she was yanking his chain.
Yeah.
But he goes, and sure enough, just like he thought, he goes to the field where she said it was. He goes to the pasture that Bobby Summerford owns, and he's shining his lights. He's driving around, and nothing at all. So he's like, "Wow, you know, this
Like,
lady,
all right, as to be
this lady's really
expected.
screwing with me here."
Yeah.
So he searched the area, didn't see anything. He actually makes a couple laps around the pasture, the fields, the roads, everything nearby. And on his last come around, he turns onto the gravel road beside the pasture, and the car's headlights, sure enough, hit a metallic looking being that was walking dead in the middle of the road.
Okay.
And yeah, so he stops the car. The being was between 75 to 100 feet away, and just enough for his lights to be on it and reflect off of its material. So he hops out of his car, and he was quoted as saying something of the lines of like, "Howdy, stranger." He was making friendly gestures, just trying to see what who or what this person was. And initially
Howdy, stranger.
initially probably didn't think that this thing had anything to do with spaceships, but kind of odd for something to be walking in the middle of the road at, we're talking after 10 p.m. in the middle of nowhere
Yeah,
on
it's
someone else's
probably,
property. Well,
yeah.
the road not on the property, but beside it.
I imagine it's getting pretty late at this point
Yeah,
because it took him a while to get there, maybe check the area, and then,
exactly. Yeah. So he's trying to talk to this thing, waving it over. But the scary part is it does begin to walk towards him.
huh,
So
a
it
little
it starts
stressful.
walking towards him, just a very slow, odd pace. He said it didn't behave or walk or really do anything like a normal person would. So he immediately reaches into his police car and grabs his Polaroid. So yeah, so he takes his first two pictures of it when the being was about 50 feet from him, all the way up to about 20 feet. So it started
That's
out about 75 feet from him and starts walking towards him. By the
Yeah.
time reaches in the passenger side of his car, retrieves the Polaroid, and gets it up to take pictures, his first snapshot, it was about 50 feet. So it closed about 15 feet. And then he took another shot of it when it was closer to maybe 20 or 30 feet from him.
Okay. Yeah, I
And then
see.
it finally stops at 10 feet. It's 10 feet, it stops walking, and that's when he takes his final two pictures of it, which are the ones that become, the iconic Metal Man photos that, anyone
Yeah.
that you can Google and take a look at.
Yeah, they're pretty interesting
Yeah.
to say
So
the least.
in an interview he did in 2020, he said that the being the Metal Man stood about 6 feet tall, because he said he was 6 feet tall and it was about the size of him. It was, like a pretty well proportioned human body structure, but obviously the interesting part of it is what it was wearing, or maybe not what it was wearing, what it was made of. If this
Yeah.
thing was,
If this
maybe robotic, but it was shining. It was metallic, almost like a thick tinfoil, kind of like a one piece, just this shining bright metal spacesuit. The legs were they were covered with a tight hip length boot, and in several interviews and comments he'd made, he kind of described the hands as almost like mittens. But again, it's all this metallic, highly reflective, substance, like, whatever this is made out of. The head had like a helmet, and a lot of people note that it almost looked like there was an antenna atop the head, and almost like pointed, I don't want to say spikes, but protrusions from either side of the head too, around the ears. But he actually stated, if I remember correctly, that he didn't even notice that at the time, when
Yeah.
he was taking the pictures. There was kind of like a visor on the helmet, but you couldn't see through it. He couldn't see no features, no, you know, nothing behind that helmet, that mask.
We obviously don't know the intention of it, if it even had any intentions, but the fact that it was walking towards him at the pace that it wasn't some leisurely stroll,
Yeah.
you know.
And the movements were
This
very stiff.
and maybe it wasn't an aggressive thing either. Like we really don't know, but it feels like there could have been intention behind the walking. But then he said that it had stopped when it was 10 feet from the car. So, yeah, who knows why it was. I'm just wondering why it was walking towards him and then decides to stop. We really don't know what it is. I mean, we could all make some guesses as to what it is. Like, the first thing that comes to mind is like a spacesuit,
Yeah.
right?
Or
Or
a
the
robot.
second thing, yeah, exactly. Or the second thing is it's a
Yeah.
robot. Maybe it's some sort of hyper intelligent AI that an alien like species had created and sent down here as like a drone type deal that
Yeah.
they control or watch through,
And
it
something
could
to
be a
back
lot of things.
that would be the fact that it was 10 feet from the patrol car with lights directly on it. These lights were so bright on it that its whole body was illuminated like a Christmas tree, reflecting
Yeah.
this, metallic, whatever it was made out of. But despite that, he still couldn't see through the visor any sort of living being behind that. If there was, if this was, an alien with a suit on, that visor was definitely like had some sort of tint, regardless of what was behind that. There was no, you
Yeah.
couldn't see
Or
through it.
maybe it's some sort of special material that they could only see through from the
Yeah,
inside, or
yeah,
it really could be any number of things like that.
yeah.
It is very interesting.
So, like I said, it closed the distance on him, and he made comments that the movements were very stiff, and he was obviously completely noiseless, no voice, no sound from with the encounter beginning to end, which
That's
is
weird.
also
That's
odd
just
because you would think that if there is someone in a thick metallic suit like that,
yeah.
I feel like you would at least see, shoulders moving with breathing, when you're in, a head to toe covered, costume like that, it's got to be hard to breathe,
Yeah.
especially with it walking, exerting itself, you would expect to see some sort of, exaggerated or labored breaths, the sound of, breathing or something.
Yeah, if its biology is anything like ours.
Exactly.
Because we have but the weirdest part to me is that it was noiseless. That is very strange. Like, I mean, if something is coming towards you at like a slow pace, like maybe you could keep from making a lot of noise, but you would still hear footsteps, you know? But if this thing is noiseless and it's not, even if it is, the material has to be rubbing together or touching together in some way. So, but the fact that there's no noise from that at all, when you hear machines that we have, they make mechanical sounds all the time.
That
Like
is
our
true. That's a
cars,
good point.
our
Yeah.
our cars make noise. Our everything we have makes noise, just an ambient noise. Like even like a spacesuit. If an astronaut had a spacesuit on and was walking around in your living room, you would hear the material or the fabric, whatever it's made of, rubbing together a little.
Yeah. Our
But this
robotics are louder than us,
Yeah, so
so
that the fact that there was no noise is incredibly
whether this is
impressive.
biological or mechanical, the fact that it was noiseless is mind-boggling.
Yeah, that part freaks me out the most. And I don't know if he means noiseless as in like there was no footsteps either,
Hmm.
but if there was also no footsteps, like that's also very disturbing as well because it's like is this thing not affected by gravity? Does it like there's so many questions about its technology. Why are there no footsteps? Why is there no noise with the machine or the suit touching the gravel, you know? Because this happened on a gravel road,
It did,
right?
yep, gravel
So it would
road. He
you've
even took
walked on a
pictures
gravel road before.
afterwards, basically like to scale and recreate the photographs. There's pictures
Yeah.
of Jeff on that road, standing right where that thing was standing, and you can see, yeah, it's a gravel road. It's the terrain is not great, which will come
Yeah.
into play in a little while, but it's not a place to be walking, and definitely not a place to be running in the middle of the night, which we're about to get to right now.
Yeah, and it's not a place to be noiseless either. Like a
Yeah,
gravel road is
yeah.
you're going to make a lot
You're
of
gonna
noise
make
there.
noise, yeah. So this thing gets 10 feet from him. He takes his last two photographs and immediately he becomes pretty concerned, shaken, like any sane kid would be. Remember, this is
Yeah.
a 23-year-old kid, in the pitch black with something, that should only exist in a science fiction book standing right in front of him. So in one motion, he takes those last two pictures. He turns to throw his camera back in the seat of his car, and at the same time, he switches on his blue roof lights to the patrol car. So he flicks those on in the console, and he aims the light beam in the direction of the creature. Now, this must have startled the creature, or it did something. It didn't like it
Yeah.
because by the time he had put the camera back in, flicked the lights on, and aimed the beam ahead, when he stood back up and turned, this thing was running down the road, running away, full sprints. He stated in his
Yeah.
2020 interview that he didn't actually see the turn of the creature. He said that one minute it was standing there, he turned, he did his thing. When he looked back, this thing was hauling ass down the road away from him.
Jeez. So
Yeah.
you sort of missed the takeoff, but caught
Yeah, he
him
missed the
mid
turn and the
sprint.
takeoff. He doesn't know how exactly it reacted to the lights and why it took off, but it did.
Yeah. It might have even decided to run before the lights went on. It was like, you know what? This guy knows too much. I'm out of here.
Yeah. So it was running down the road. Now this road heads south. He went on record to say, "I got into my patrol car to pursue. He was running faster than any human I ever saw." So he jumps into his patrol car, slams on the gas. Now, again, he's on a gravel road. The terrain is not good, but he's pushing this thing. He's pushing his car as fast as it can go. But he went on to say that he was running in a very odd manner from side to side, his arms down to his sides, and it looked as if he had springs under his feet to propel him. He could take 10 foot, more or less, one step at one
So he was
step. Yeah.
closing
He
one
was,
step was a
yeah.
10-foot
Each
gap.
step, yeah, he was covering at least 10 feet. And that's why he
That's so
said, he
weird.
said several times He said the only way I could explain it is that this thing had springs under his feet because it was like bounding. Each step was launching this thing.
It was like a leap forward
Yeah,
off of
it was
one
like a
foot.
skip leap.
I actually have a really good image in my head
Yeah.
of what that
And
looks
the
like.
fact that the arms were down by its side.
Yeah, that's a little freaky
How
too. I
does
don't like that.
that just that?
We run like that to balance ourselves out when we move our arms.
Yeah.
You know, we're balancing our body out against gravity and everything else. But if this thing is not affected by the, you know, like laws of gravity,
Yeah,
then I
which,
guess
like
it
many
doesn't.
people say, UFOs are also not under the effects of gravity like we are. This thing feels like it's doing the same. The fact that its arms are down to its side gives me the impression that it's almost like doing this like without even trying. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like no effort, and it's running faster than a vehicle.
Yeah, that's pretty wild.
Yeah. I believe he was getting his patrol car around 35 to 40 miles an hour trying to catch up to this thing. And
Wow.
and he couldn't. He actually went on to say that during the excitement that he must have mashed the accelerator on the patrol car too hard because the car went into a skid and slammed sideways in the middle of the road and came to rest almost in a ditch. He uh, he said, "I regained control of the car, backed it up, straightened it up, and pulled out of the dust onto the gravel road. During the chase, this alien, whatever you want to call it, disappeared from view. Greenhaw went on to search the area with the car's spotlight. He started circling around, moving as fast as he could. He was checking all the pastures, the fields, the wooded areas all around. He never saw this thing again. Even with his spotlights going in every direction, it was gone. He never found it.
Yeah, that's pretty wild to outrun a vehicle
Yeah.
that easily, you
And we're
know.
talking about ground that's not great for running or driving. This
Yeah.
gravel road is not, it's not something you can drag race on, but it's also not something that you can run 40 miles an hour on either.
It's a lot of factors that are so weird. It's the terrain is bad. It's late at night. The suit or device or whatever you want to call the thing it moves awkwardly, yet it can still outrun this patrol car like so easily.
Yeah.
And it's so strange, you know.
Yep. So
I don't know.
yeah.
It's very unusual.
So eventually he gave up and went back to the police station. There was a night watchman on duty, and his brother actually came in later, and the both of them could not believe his experience. They thought he was wacko, you know, even though he had the photographic evidence to prove it. They was just so unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah, especially providing photographic evidence immediately.
Yeah.
You
Yep.
know. Yeah. And also he believes something happened to him because like why number one, why would he throw away this chief of police opportunity or throw away his credibility on some small thing, you know? Like it doesn't make sense for him to lie
Yeah.
in this
When you
situation.
look at what he went through in the coming days, weeks following this, it in all aspects was not worth it.
Yeah.
There was nothing positive he gained out of this at all.
This reminds me a little bit of Bob Lazar.
Yeah,
Bob Lazar had a similar issue, you know, where his life basically fell apart and he seems to hate everything that happened. So
exactly. Yep, exactly. And
yeah.
another thing is that if we're on the topic of, could he have hoaxed this? There was never anyone confirmed to have come forward claiming to be the person in the costume, what the costume was made out of, nothing
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, so it's another one of those mysteries, you know, it's up in the air. I lean towards more believing him, but I mean, I like to try to stay neutral and give all the potential things that I think it is and what it could be.
Yeah.
You know, number one, people think it automatically. People probably are like, oh, you know, it's a hoax, which you know it very well could be. But the other option is, he could actually be telling the truth, and this
Yeah.
strange thing happened to him. And it's just, if it was a hoax, why would you throw away so much of your life? Like his life after this, I'm assuming, was not very great. You
No,
know,
no. So you want to hear what happened to this
I
poor
would
man?
love to hear what happened to this
Yeah.
poor guy. I'm assuming it's awful.
So he contacts the local newspaper that night after the incident.
As you should.
Yeah, because in a town like that, there was really nowhere else to go, nowhere to turn. There
Yeah.
was no official government-sponsored reporting centers, so he does what he can. He goes to the local newspaper. Now, what follows seems to pretty much be a wave of harassment, threats, and a series of overall strange events that fell upon him. And
Sort of like for the rest of his life kind of deal,
yeah,
or like for the next few years maybe.
and this fallout is almost as mysterious as the Metal Man himself.
Wow.
And yeah, so
And that itself gives more validity to the story that this strange stuff happened to him after the
yeah,
fact.
so around October 19th, 1973. Now this is what, 2 days after the incident.
Yeah.
You could basically call it a campaign of harassment was
Yeah.
launched against Greenhaw. He began getting threatening phone calls, even hate letters accusing him of being a mental case, idiot, crackpot, faker, and even the devil.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jeez. That's pretty rough.
Yeah. Then 2 days after that, October 21st, he goes to start his car and the engine randomly explodes.
It
His
explodes?
car just shits the bed.
Okay.
Randomly, yeah, his car just gave up.
My God.
Yep.
Okay.
So we're only
So his
4 days
car
in, and he's already getting harassment in every way, and his car engine explodes. Now, 3 days after that, on October 24th, the harassment had gotten so severe with, phone calls coming to his house.
Yeah.
It affected his wife so deeply that she left home and basically forced him to consent to a divorce on October 29th.
Yeah.
So
That
in
sucks.
about a week of this
Oh my God.
happening, his car explodes, his wife divorces him, and the entire town is turned on him.
12 days later, after seeing something happen, his his whole life literally flips upside down. Like this doesn't seem like it would be worth doing the hoax,
No, not at all. But
Like
wait,
his
but wait,
wife
there's
left him and
more.
everything. Oh
So
my
a couple
God.
weeks after that, on
What
November
else?
9th, he comes home to his trailer home engulfed in flames and completely burned to the ground.
What?
His
Okay.
whole house burns to the
Home gone,
ground.
wife gone, house burned to the ground, wife gone, friends, family, town turned on you. Probably lose his job now because of it. Dude. Yeah, no. That's not worth a hoax, man.
Yep.
I don't.
And then 5 days after that, November 14th, this was pretty strange. He found a note on his car's windshield
Boy.
with basically a made up obituary of himself. Someone basically saying like you're dead and put a fake obituary of Jeff on his own car.
That's very creepy and disturbing.
Yeah.
I like someone is like clearly trying to scare him.
Yeah. And it
And that
seems
gives me
too
chills.
coordinated and too like large. Like it feels like such a large scale coordinated attack on this man and everything
Yeah.
in his life that he holds dear.
Yeah, like there was some resources
Yeah,
definitely
like it
spent
was
to
bigger than the town itself.
yeah.
And even speaking of the town, during all of this, the mayor, J. Wade Tomlinson, and all the members of the town council who had appointed him, Jeff, as the chief of police, were all silent or silenced,
Huh.
some would claim. No one was there for him. No one, helped to stop the harassment. No one helped to stop the threats. Even his superior that I mentioned before, John C. McBride, did absolutely nothing.
Now, what's really weird about that to me is like, let's say, okay, let's paint a scenario here, right? Let's say this happens in a small town, the same exact thing. Let's say his name is Jeff, right?
Yes.
Let's say that this is happening to someone, but it's actually just something that's happening in their head, right? And you have a lot of these people in the town who care about you, and they appointed you the chief of police, and people, a lot of these people care about you. The point is, they would stand up for him or say like he's wrong in this situation. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like they wouldn't just stay silent. What I, as a friend or as someone who cares about this dude, it would make sense to say, okay, yeah, like he's wrong, and there's definitely something going on with him that is wrong. But instead of doing that, they just chose to remain silent. That feels very weird,
Yeah. He
you
even
know?
said in his 2020 interview that the worst part of it wasn't the threats and harassment by all these mystery people, but it was the friends, the people that was close to him. It was that hurt him the most.
Yeah.
That where he thought he would get help, he got nothing.
Yeah, and they basically ignored him, you know?
Yeah.
And even if he's wrong, if he's having some sort of mental break in reality, you'd think that the mayor or those people would be like, yeah, unfortunately, we just think he's kind of losing his mind a little and like maybe he needs some genuine help. Like you'd think they would say something like that, but
Yeah.
instead they chose silence, which is very weird as a so-called friend or, someone who cared about
Yep.
him. So
Yep.
that's very weird to
Yep.
me.
So he gets this obituary, left on his windshield November 14th. And then we make the comments on the fact that no one tried to help him or make the situation better. The following day, November 15th, they double down and do the opposite, where the town council called in Jeff and basically forced him to resign.
What?
To resign. You are no longer a police officer. And they also
That's
denied
sad.
that his resignation had anything to do with a series of incidents that Jeff was
Okay.
involved in or the pictures taken of the alien. They
Okay,
they
that's just
forced him to
unreal.
design to resign, and then made a public statement that it had absolutely nothing to do with the encounter, which that is bullshit. That
That is
there's no
absolutely
way that that had
ridiculous.
nothing to do with, like,
The, yeah,
you can't tell me.
there's no way that they forced him to resign and were like, "Oh, it has nothing to do with these recent events though." Okay, sure. Yeah, no, that's ridiculous, man. I would be pissed if it was me. That would make me mad. I'd be like, "No, fire me. I'm not resigning. You can fire me." I'd rather like that would make me so mad that they made him resign,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, they
That's so
totally
annoying.
ruined his law enforcement reputation. They forced him to resign, and then everyone went on to try and discredit the photographs.
Of course.
And they started rumors that he photographed a fireman's uniform, some sort of NASA suit,
Like
spaceman
spacesuit.
suit. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was actually this guy. His name was Frank Sikora. He was a staff writer for the Birmingham News. He actually went on to show a photograph that he published in the news of a side by side of Jeff's original photograph of the Metal Man, and then a recreation that Frank made, basically to try to push the narrative that it was a hoax. And
Yeah.
he did his best to recreate the suit, recreate the photograph, and say, "Hey, look, this guy's full of shit." So what he did, he dressed in a NASA Air Force firefighting uniform. He
Okay.
added some tinfoil to it here and there to make it reflective, like like Jeff's picture. And then he posed for the camera, and they photographed him. You know, just like Jeff photographed the alien, and he basically said that that Jeff was, whether he had a part in a hoax or not, that he was fooled, he was bamboozled, by maybe someone pranking him,
Yeah.
and that he was sorry for everything that happened to Jeff in the following months, but he actually said that as bad as he felt about all of everything that happened to him afterwards, he believed that it was just coincidental.
Okay.
Um,
He believed that this whole thing was a
yeah,
coincidence.
But if you actually look at the side by side here, let me let me show you this. If you look at this, you can clearly see the differences in the suits in the attempted recreation.
Yeah. I'm assuming is the recreation
Yes,
here.
the image on the right is
This
the recreation that was attempted by Frank Sikora, and the image on the left is Jeff's original photograph of the Metal Man.
Yeah, the image on the right looks like so insanely human.
Yeah.
There's digits on the gloves. The headpiece is so clearly a headpiece. The left image is much more reflective and it's much more unpronounced. Like the
Mm.
feet, you can see the difference in the remake. The boots are clearly boots, and on the left one, it just sort of is all flush.
Yeah.
Like it's all the same material.
And what's crazy is the reflective qualities of the Metal Man. His entire suit, whatever this is, top to bottom, there is not a single. You can tell in the recreated photo, we have different materials. We have different
Yeah.
components to the costume that all have different reflective, visuals. They're not all flush like the picture on the left, top
Yeah.
to bottom. This thing is the same material. Whatever this material is, it is glistening. And
Yeah, it's the same material all the way
yeah,
through.
and
And it's
the helmet.
very
If you look at the helmet, the Metal Man's, he has no hood.
yeah.
It's kind of like built into the suit, where the visor on the fireman's suit is actually kind of transparent, and many people claim that you can basically see this guy's face right through it,
Yeah.
and it's like double the size of the Metal Man's.
Yeah, it's crazy to me is how reflective it really is.
Yeah.
It's so reflective the picture is like tough to look at. You're like what exactly is that? You can clearly see like humanoid figure, arms, 2 legs, torso, headpiece kinda.
Mm-hmm.
You can see a humanoid figure, but it's very, very reflective. Like it's too much. I can only imagine what it actually looked like
Yeah.
in person.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so Frank Sikora is the guy who published this. He actually met with a National Investigation Committee on Aerial Phenomenon representative in Georgia. This guy was Marion Webb. Now, Marion Webb was the one who donned the recreation outfit,
Oh,
and
okay.
where Frank would take the photos, and together they would hoax campaign against Jeff. And
I see.
but yeah, anyone with two eyes and a brain can say that I'm not buying it. You know?
Yeah. It's a little strange the whole story. I mean, it feels very like everything that happened to him just is not worth a hoax, you know.
Yeah,
The aftermath,
yeah.
all the bad things
Another
that
thing I
happened to
wanted
him.
to say was, I actually thought about this while we're recording here. Do you recall anything about the famous Roswell UFO crash?
Not so much. It's been a while.
Yes.
I do sort of have an idea of maybe what they said the craft was made
Yeah.
of.
So, interestingly enough, everyone claimed everyone who had contact with the initial crash material all said it was a quote foil like material. Yeah,
Yes,
everyone said it looked like
that's right.
aluminum foil. It was lightweight. It couldn't easily be bent or permanently damaged. And some accounts even claimed that if you were to crumple it, it would return to its original shape, almost like a memory metal.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's actually a realistic thing. I can't remember if it has to be a magnetic thing or a certain type of metal, but sometimes when you introduce heat to an object, to some of these metals, they will return to their original shape. That's very
Yeah.
interesting.
It was,
Hmm.
yeah, it lends credence to the fact that, if we're talking about the same, beings, same race, same species of, visitor from wherever, they
Yeah.
would make the same, material. They would use the same material on their ships as they would their own, clothing or, suits, whatever you want to call it. And
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
if we're playing the hoax game, is it really feasible that, we got a 23-year-old kid here? He's clearly smart. He's married. He's chief of police at 23. Probably has way more work to be doing than, staging dangerous hoaxes. Like, you know,
yeah,
and even if he was behind this hoax, he would have had to construct, a robot costume. This would have taken time. We're talking about a town that only has 900 people in it, and everyone knows everyone, and yet not a single person has ever claimed to be, hoaxed with him, anything like that. When you really lay it all out, it doesn't really add up. It's almost
yeah.
harder to
Some of it doesn't
believe
sit
that
right.
he somehow hoaxed this. You would have had to have several people in on it. You
Yeah,
know, first of all, you got a lady who to this day is no one knows who she was. She was an anonymous that made the original uh 911 phone call. He would have to have her in on it, making up that she sees a UFO. Then he would have to drive down there. He would have to get at least one other person in
be in the
a
suit.
hot giant tinfoil metal suit that the guy was probably choking to death in, run through a fucking field in a gravel road,
Yeah, dude.
and take pictures. Even if it was a
Look like
hoax,
a
you'd think he would have
goofball.
gotten better pictures. You can tell the pictures aren't perfect because he's probably taken, this guy's probably frantic trying to take these pictures as something that he's never seen before closes in
Yeah,
on him. You know what I mean? So a lot of this hasn't come to the light. Hasn't come to light until recently in the more recent interview he did. So we're going to the 90s. He was diagnosed with cancer. Now, when he got diagnosed with cancer, they had estimated that he had cancer for at least 18 years.
what?
They said that he had massive tumors, sizes like you just don't see. And on top of that, he got diagnosed shortly after with a heart condition. Doctors claiming that his heart was doing things they had never seen before. And then had a triple fucking aneurysm
How is he not
where he
dead?
had to have
My,
surgery on two of them at the same time and
my
survived
God,
all of that. Yeah.
Jesus, man. He had cancer. He goes to the doctors. They're like, "Hey, you've had cancer for
For
18 years."
18 for
He's like,
18
"What?"
years.
He's like, "What do you mean? I've had cancer for 18 years.
By
How
the
am I
way, your
alive?"
heart is doing things that we have never seen before.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's
also
moving. I
tomorrow
don't
you're going to
know.
have a triple aneurysm.
Yeah, and we're gonna get to it at the same time. Sorry, dude. You're doing great though.
You're you're going to be
Like,
fine though. Yeah.
you're gonna be
You're going to
fine.
be all
Don't
right.
worry about it.
Oh my god.
That's very unusual.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, man. That just seems really strange. Also, the cancer for 18 years thing, like, he had it. They're saying he had it for 18 years and
Yeah.
didn't know?
Yeah, he was
How is that
diagnosed.
possible?
He was diagnosed 30 years ago with it, but they estimated that he had it for
Am I
around
dumb?
18 years.
I'm not dumb, right? Like, you just don't have cancer
How do
for
you
18
have
years and you're
cancer for
alive,
18 years?
untreated,
That
right?
doesn't make
Like,
sense to me.
that just doesn't make sense. You're right. I'm pretty sure if you get cancer and it goes untreated, it will eventually kill you like much quicker than 18 years. That just seems like a really long time.
Yeah. So,
Massive
yeah.
tumors as
So all
well.
this happens. Obviously, he gets the divorce. You know, he gets scrutinized by the town council. He's forced to resign. His house burns to the fucking ground. His car blows up. And he just says, screw it. And, he has nothing. He lost everything in his life. So
Yeah,
he leaves town. He, from the best accounts that I could find, he ended up actually moving to Florida and,
like in recent years,
yeah,
maybe.
became a
Yeah.
carpenter and tried to stay out of the spotlight. But what was crazy was that he said that 10 years after the Metal Man incident, almost 10 years to the exact day, someone, still undetermined, broke into his house and stole the original Polaroid images of the Metal Man. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
That's okay. That's freaky. Wait, so how do we have the original images then on
We don't. All
like
we have is either scans or pictures of pictures. Yeah.
that's what they are? Okay,
Yeah.
so his
So,
original
yep.
images are
Yep, piece
gone.
of them. He has nothing. He lost the
the ones we're seeing online are scans or pictures of
Yeah.
of the
He
original.
lost the original
I see.
negatives. Someone broke in.
What?
Yeah, he said he filed a police report November 3rd, and which was probably a few days after um the break-in. The original account happened October 17th of 1973. So yeah, we're like within the week of the 10-year anniversary of this. Someone breaks into his house. Now what's crazy is they broke in, they stole these Polaroids. The only other things they stole were a couple of his firearms, one of them being his service weapon that he carried on him the day that happened also.
Well, that's weird.
Yeah. And he said these
Maybe it's like a
Polaroids were
radiation
hidden. He
type
didn't
deal.
say where they were hidden, but he said these are in a spot that only I knew where they were, and no one should have or could have found them. And he said
That's
they were one of the only things stolen in this break-in.
I bet you it was a radiation signature of some kind, and that's probably how they came to find the objects.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Maybe there was some sort of like background radiation that was left on the device on his service weapon or the original pictures, and that's how they found it. Maybe they had a device to detect the radiation, just went through his house and took them. But that's really strange, man. That's so freaking weird.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's the
his
history of the
story.
Metal Man, beginning to end.
Yeah.
Now, yeah. In conclusion, we have October 17th, 1973. This 23-year-old chief of police, elected chief of police by his town council. Real standout kid, happily married, got his whole life ahead of him. Probably swamped with police work, who doesn't have time to craft a hoax. No one in this small town where everyone knows everyone ever claimed to be a part of a hoax or knew about a hoax, sees this metallic metal being run at 30 to 40 mile an hour speeds. Then in the coming days and weeks to follow, gets a harassment campaign launched against him by who knows what, death threats, violent, letters, calls, to the point where a week later his wife divorces him. His car blows up. His house burns down. Then he's forced to resign as chief of police by the people who elected him that in the first place. And he basically has to walk away from his whole life. Then has pretty much the worst medical anomalies happen to him that I've ever heard. On top of being raided by something
who knows
almost
what
seemed to specifically target the Polaroid photographs.
Yeah.
And to this day, of all the attempts to prove this was a hoax, all it's really done is prove it's not.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. I think you pretty much summed it up there.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the mental.
Draw
your own conclusions.
Draw your own
conclusions. I think I have mine. Do you want to share yours?
I lean towards believing him. It does seem like, all these stories usually seem like crazy. I try to look at it from all angles, but I tend to lean more towards it's believable for me because of the things that happened to him in following the events soon after.
You feel like if this was a hoax and he had anything to do with it at all, he would eventually give in, like enough is enough.
Yeah.
My whole life isn't worth the hoax. Like you feel at some point he would say, okay, I was fucking around. It's not real. You know what I mean?
There's no one would throw their whole life away for like a little bit of attention. Like he got some attention for a couple years maybe after it with some interviews later in life, like in 2020 and 2021.
Yeah.
But he didn't make a lot of money from it.
No, he didn't get any.
He lost money.
Town.
His house was burned down.
He had to
go lost his wife.
under the radar and just disappear pretty much.
Yeah, he had to become a ghost. He didn't gain anything. He didn't gain like fame and like fortune from this at all. If I'm thinking of him as a person who's hoaxing this, what is his goal here? Like, what is he getting out of it?
Yeah.
Nothing. Nothing
if
really.
This was a hoax,
aside from mild attention,
this was the greatest backfire in history. Yeah.
And if it is a hoax and he's gonna take it to the grave.
I mean, good on him,
dude.
Good
on you, bro. Good on you. You fooled us all. You threw your whole life away to trick everybody. Good job. Okay, you
Was,
got it, bro. You got it.
what was it worth? Everything.
Was it? Yeah.
Literally, like,
My
this
God, dude.
hoax, if that's what you want to call it, costed a man his entire life. That's the most
Yeah.
the easiest way to put it. There's
Yep.
no other way around it.
So I don't know, but draw your own conclusions
Yep.
and
I'm definitely with you. I wouldn't say I 100% say it's real, but
yeah,
I
me
gotta
too.
be somewhere in the 80 to 90%. Like, this Jeff guy seems like the kind of guy who are, on all accounts that I've read, seems to be a genuine, pretty serious guy that's, would not make up something like this.
Yeah,
Or not
I
even
don't think
have the
so.
means to fabricate something like this. So I definitely believe something happened to him that night. And
Yeah, or at least he believes something happened to him
yeah,
as well. I believe that he believes something happened to him at the least.
yeah,
You
exactly.
know, I think he thinks something happened to him. I don't think it was some kind of hoax or anything, but you never know. But I'm leaning a little bit more towards believing him.
Yeah.
So,
All right. Well,
yeah.
let's wrap things up here.
All
So
right.
yeah, if you like the episode, subscribe where you can, comment, share it. We hope you all had as much fun listening to this as we did learning and
Learning
telling
and
this
talking about
story.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, give us your feedback, man. Let us know what you got to say. We want to hear about what you got to say about it. What do you think happened? Is this guy telling the truth? Is it a hoax? Did this really happen to him? What are your thoughts? What are some crazy theories, or do you think everything we had to say was complete bull?
Yeah. If
Just
we
let us
missed
know.
anything, let us know in the
Yeah.
comments. If we got anything wrong, let us know. Definitely let us know your thoughts and opinions
Yeah.
on it. And yeah, we hope you all enjoyed the show. And I'm Steve, and you were listening to the Phantom Frequency Podcast. We hope you guys had fun, and we will catch you all in the next episode.